10 ways empaths become toxic. Did you just read that headline correctly? Can an empath become a toxic person? Sadly, yes. But there's more to it than you may think. We may regularly read about the people who are toxic to an empath, but not often the other way around. But an empath can become toxic, both to themselves and to others. This may come as a surprise, considering all empaths have a strong sense of empathy, and the last thing they would want is for another to suffer by the energy they emit or their ways of being. We will look at how an empath can become toxic shortly, but first, I would just like to say that although the word toxic sounds a bit extreme, it is simply an easy word to describe something that is harmful not only to self, but also to others. I am not using it in respect of being fatal, causing another's death or anything like that. Just thought I should point that out before I start. The thing is, we are currently living in a very tarnished world. It is a world that is purposely triggering us as humans, both physically and energetically. The more our emotions are negatively manipulated, the more negative energy we emit, which, as you can imagine, is not good for anyone. As empaths, we tend to have heightened emotions and an ability to powerfully project energy. So the last thing we want is for our low-level emotions to be artificially stimulated, but sadly, it is happening more and more. So, without further ado, let's take a look at some of the common themes that could make an empath fall under the umbrella of being toxic. 1. Festering in anger. Everyone becomes angry at some point, but problems arise for an empath when they start festering within their anger and allowing it to become their emotional identity, often without them realizing it's happened. Our world is providing so many reasons for us to be angry. I'm sure just reading this you can think of at least 3. But as already noted, empaths are very good at projection, meaning we can project what we feel out into the world. When an empath sits for too long within the energy of anger or hate, we can then emit this and become a toxic frequency. The best way to get out of anger energy is to avoid anything that triggers it and use the 17-second window to change your thoughts. Basically, if you hold a thought for longer than 17 seconds, it becomes embedded and changes your energy. Remember that your emotions are being purposely triggered to keep your awareness dumbed down and your vibration low. We all need to stay in control of our power by staying in control of our emotions. 2. Having a warped sense of injustice. When anyone develops a warped sense of injustice, it can make them look at the world in a very misaligned way. They become confused over what is an injustice and what isn't, often seeing fault in everything and everyone, and becoming offended over the slightest thing. Empaths are easily influenced by external energy, so it can be easy for us to get intertwined within what we see as being unfairness and injustice. This is especially common with unaware empaths. We are having so much misinformation pushed on us these past years that it can be hard not to get drawn in. But when we hold on to types of injustice that lead to offense, anger, or hate, as already discussed, it can change the energy we emit to a very low frequency. I am not saying do not stand up for what you believe in. Far from it. But understanding where real injustices lie is key to not getting taken in by fake stories and thus projecting out toxic energy. It is far more beneficial to the world to send out a positive love energy rather than anger energy. And we can only do this by staying out of manufactured propaganda designed to keep our minds in a dark place and our energy signature of a toxic vibration. 3. Becoming overly needy. Generally, when anyone becomes overly needy, they can become excessively dependent. They want others to be there for them at every waking moment. This may sound more like a narcissistic trait, but it can also be developed by those empaths who are out of balance and have been repeatedly let down. After a life of letdowns, some people will push others away, not trusting anyone. But the reverse is also true. Some become overly clingy and dependent. Becoming overly dependent of others is usually a sign of having no self-belief. This contributes to lowering our vibration and our energy, but it can be changed, which we will look at shortly. 4. Seeking revenge. This really isn't a typical trait of an empath, but it can happen when one has been hurt so badly by another that it distorts their natural way of thinking and behavior. Taking revenge on another could be done in a way such as idle gossip and tittle-tattle, or indeed taking action that would result in emotional harm being done to another. When we feel this way, even without taking action, it can often be because we are out of alignment with our higher selves. It also takes us back into anger energy, which, as already noted, is in itself toxic. As a side note, karma exists. What goes around comes around. If another does us harm, they will experience their own version of karma. If we, however, intentionally do something that could harm another, as a form of revenge, either emotionally or physically pained emotions can create physical harm, then we are creating our own karmic debt. 5. Draining energy. Empaths can be easily drained by others, but what might come as a surprise is they can also become the drainers. Constantly being there for friends or family can be draining of our energy. When we give and give, or when we allow others to feed on our energy, we have little left in our tank. If we allow ourselves to become so energetically depleted, we might start unwittingly feeding off others' energy. This is quite rare, but it does happen, often without the empath realizing they are doing it. Generally, it is mostly those who are unaware that they are empaths who do this, but it can also happen to those empaths who are in a really bad place emotionally and physically. We all know what it's like to have been around an energy drainer. It does not feel good. It can actually make us physically ill, especially if we are run down at the time. The last thing we would want is to unwittingly consume another's energy. As I said, it is rare, but it can happen. So we should work to remain conscious, not only of what energy we radiate, but also of any energy we may consume. 6. Acting fake or lying to self. We all act fake at some point. It is part of life. How many times have you gone into work and felt physically or emotionally flat but acted upbeat and happy? For me, working in hairdressing all those years ago, it was a daily requirement. There is a saying that we should fake it until we make it, and working to stay in a positive mindset, even if it is fake, can certainly, at times, reap rewards. The problem happens when we start lying to ourselves or pretending to be something that we're not 24/7. For example, pretending we have beliefs that aren't really ours just to fit in with what we think is right, or conveying a personality that does not belong to us, or telling ourselves we are not upset about something when we are really devastated, etc. We are all an accumulation of many fear-based emotions, untruths, rejections, and painful events, built up from our personal history. These can turn into insecurities and a dislike of self. It is these insecurities that might lead us to becoming fake and pretending to ourselves. People, and not just empaths, are impacted by inauthenticity, even when they don't realize it's happening. When we align with our truth, a heavy energetic weight is lifted. The energy we then emit is much cleaner and more powerful. We discover we are none of those fears and insecurities we once carried. We can live to find our truth and allow our truth to be our driving force. 7. Allowing past hurts to become your main identity. Most empaths have had challenges to face in life, some quite painful and even tragic. Being sensitive and highly reactive people means it can impact our energy signature in a very disruptive and destructive way. It also means our energy can become toxic, especially to other sensitive people. Ever been around another empath who you feel incredibly uncomfortable with, or even ill? It can be their buried hurts that you are picking up on, which makes you feel such discomfort. Having suppressed emotions can be a catalyst for cortisol spikes, hormone imbalances, and a heightened sensitivity to negative emotions. It also means we can release more toxic energy. Part of our journey as a sensitive person is releasing our pain and working to rebalance, generally done through mindful practices and self-awareness. However, it is very easy to hold on to our past pains and not let them go, even burying them. Like a seed, when we bury our pain, it tends to grow. If we want to remove it, we have to get to the root. The more we work on ourselves, the more resilient we become, and the easier it is for us to let go. Another issue empaths face is it is too easy to take on another person's pain and mistake it as our own, and build it into our story. This type of stress tends to lead to nothing good. Again, the more we work on ourselves, the more protected we are. 8. A. Questionable lifestyle. Being sensitive in this insensitive world can be a challenge. We may regularly turn to drugs, excessive amounts of alcohol or drug-like foods, to block out all that we feel from the past or present. When we do this, it lowers our frequency and we radiate a low vibration that can become toxic to others. However, addictions or addictive behaviors aren't always what we think they are. When anyone depends on anything addictive, it generally means there is an underlying imbalance that needs addressing, which could be as simple as a vitamin or mineral deficiency, a gut bacterial overgrowth, or even histamine issues. It can also be caused by eating GM foods, like wheat, that act like a drug within the body. When we indulge in lifestyles that we know aren't good for us, we might think that we are just being weak-willed, but it is often a message from our own body to say something is amiss. The human body has very weird ways of trying to get our attention. It is often the case that an addiction is telling us that there is a physical imbalance. Just like our intuition talks to us in a language we have to learn for ourselves, our body does the same. Sadly, it has become the norm to shut the body up. If we have a headache, we take a pill. If we crave sugar, we gorge on chocolate. If we have addictions, we tend to feed them. When we are in balance, both physically and energetically, we tend to let go of problematic lifestyles that do us harm. It happens naturally, but we have to put the work in to get there. I share some healing strategies below. 9. Taking advantage. I often say that being an empath is a gift, although it might not always feel like it. We have the ability to read situations and people. We have great intuition. We have the ability to think outside the box, something that not many others can do, and we tend to be good listeners. But we are also human, and it could be possible that we take advantage of these gifts and, at times, act manipulative. This is why it is good to stop and question our motives and behaviors to keep us in check and stop us from being manipulative, if even accidentally. Because, although there is nothing wrong with believing in ourselves, behaving in a special manner or taking advantage is somewhat of a narcissistic trait that doesn't do much for raising our vibration or those around us. 10. Derogatory self-talk. Did you know that when we talk or think badly of ourselves, it will lower our frequency? Even if it's thinking something like we're too overweight, we're not rich enough, not pretty enough, or that we're not very capable. This type of thinking can go on a spin cycle and keep us caught up in the mindset that we're not good enough. This simply keeps our energetic vibration low and toxic. As an empath, you will know only too well what it's like to be around anyone whose mind is in a negative place. It does not feel good. Having low thinking patterns can lead to having a low energy signature. Instead of thinking in a critical way, we can turn it around and work to keep the mindset positive. One of the first ways we do that is by keeping away from anything that is intended to feed our insecurities. Most social media is designed to make us feel unworthy and insecure, and it is those feelings that somehow keep us going back for more. Which might seem weird, but anything that spikes our cortisol can have an addictive effect. That is one of the reasons why, in your social media feeds, you are shown things that anger you or trigger your insecurities. Negative thinking can also be a sign of a physical imbalance. For example, when I eat a food that contains lectins or has high histamine, it can affect my moods and thinking patterns, and also my energy. It doesn't happen very often because I know what I am intolerant to, but when it does, it has a big impact. Some people, however, are not aware of their intolerances or food reactions to, for example, oxalates, lectins, or histamine and consume them every day, which in turn will keep them in a very low emotional space, continually having low feelings about self. Hopefully, if you suffer with any of the above, the fixes below will help with finding balance so that they become a thing of the past. Okay, let's take a look. 6 ways to rebalance. Exercise. Our body needs to be moved regularly. It needs both strengthening and stretching. Exercise is an elixir for so many things. However, contrary to popular belief, you don't need to spend hours at a gym to get the benefits. 10 to 30 minutes a day is enough to help uplift your soul and clear toxic energy. Walking, cycling, dancing, yoga, Pilates, weightlifting, etc. all work perfectly. Find something you love and build it into your routine. Yoga and walking are probably two of the most therapeutic forms of exercise. There is a type of yoga to suit everyone, but it has to be practiced regularly to see results. Walking is easy and super beneficial for the body and mind. But, in my opinion, what brings some incredible benefits, especially for clearing and rebalancing, is short bursts of high-intensity exercise. For example, doing 6 30-second sprints can work wonders. This type of exercise also helps release human growth hormone, which in turn lifts our spirits and keeps us young. Change your diet. If you have had numerous physical or mental health issues, an excellent way to find balance is by doing the keto or carnivore diet. Both work as elimination diets, removing all processed foods, grains, and starchy vegetables. As already mentioned, oxalates, lectins, or histamine can cause many physical and emotional problems, and doing an elimination diet is the fastest way to see if a certain food is triggering physical or emotional ailments. They are also great ways to heal. Being overly sensitive means many empaths react more than most to proteins in vegetarian food, which might seem bonkers, but one man's medicine can be another's poison. There is so much information online, especially on YouTube, about the benefits of the keto and carnivore diets. It might not be the remedy for everyone, but it is certainly a good starting point. Grounding and daylighting. Taking your uncovered eyes to the heavens and your bare feet to the earth is incredible for energy balancing. Daylighting with no glasses on and barefoot earth grounding are the perfect way to reset. Done at the same time, they are a magical elixir for emotional detox. Some months ago, I shared my own story of the benefits I received from daylighting. It is easy to do and costs nothing. See more on these posts. Check for SIBO. It is said that all disease begins in the gut. After a lifetime of poor diet, taking medications, and just living in an environmentally toxic world, our gut bacteria can become seriously out of balance, which can impact so many areas of our life, both physically and emotionally, even to the extent of changing our personality. The thing is, we often think that if we don't have stomach problems, like bloating or digestive issues, that our gut must be fine. Not the case. SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, can be behind anything from depression to autoimmune disorders. A good way to combat this is by using an elimination diet, as mentioned above, and by taking probiotics to rebalance your gut flora. However, if you have any type of histamine intolerance, you have to be careful what you take. The following is an excellent article on the best probiotics to take for repopulating beneficial bacteria in your gut. Get enough water. Water is essential for our well-being. 70 to 80% of our body is made up of water. It not only keeps us functioning optimally, it also helps flush out our toxins, both physically and energetically. I often recommend that if you pick up too much emotional energy, then one of the best ways to clear it is with water. Also, because we consume so many things that work as diuretics, we need to replenish our water supplies. Breathing alone loses 1/4 of the body's water on a daily basis, and that's without any physical exertion. This article will give you more information on using water to heal the body and clear excess emotional energy. Mindful practices. It is very easy to let our meditative practices slide when we are busy, something I am guilty of myself, but they are the easiest way for us to have a quick reset and clear toxic energy. We can all find 3 minutes to do a mini meditation or breathing technique, which are doubly impactful if you use your crystals at the same time, or practice earthing whilst doing your mindful practice and get a double whammy. If you are busy, the last thing you want to do is get stressed about doing mindful practices. But I have discovered that you really don't need to spend a lot of time to get the benefits. Okay, that's it for me today. Hope this article has given you some food for thought. Until next time.